One of the most common questions that I get as a divorce lawyer is, how do I tell my spouse that I'm considering a divorce? What do I do? And first of all, I want to tell you, there is no script. There is no one way to break this news to anybody. But I want to give you a couple of tips and tricks, since this is one of the most popular questions that I get asked. And so first, I want to give you one way to think about it. So I don't want you to have one conversation with your spouse about your decision to have a divorce. It's too much pressure. Are you going to sleep the night before? No, you're not. Are you going to have it all written down? Probably not. Are you going to remember all the important things that, you wanted to say the weeks and the days leading up to this conversation? No, you're not. Why put that pressure on yourself? Don't make this important conversation just one conversation. Instead, I recommend that you spread it out over, say, 3 conversations. This is a really big topic. Why not break it up into bite-sized chunks? First of all, I hope you've talked to a divorce lawyer well before you've spoken with your spouse about the fact that you want to have a divorce. A divorce lawyer can help you turn left versus right, can help rein in some really great sounding ideas that have terrible implications. So this is a tips and tricks for after you've talked to a divorce lawyer. But break it up into bite-sized chunks. Let's say the first conversation is, I'd like to talk about divorce in general. Break the news, the concept of divorce to your spouse, and do it in a way that broaches divorce generally. It would be so hard if we lived apart, but it might resolve a lot of these bickerings that we've had, and it just doesn't seem like we've been on the same page since we stopped sleeping together 5 years ago. Things like that. Then, after you have that first conversation, don't feel like you're going to have any success or traction. This is just, we're lobbing it into the air. We're putting this word into the atmosphere. We're making everybody aware that the word is being kicked around by the other person. So once you do that, then I suggest you move to a more specific conversation. This time, your spouse is going to know, gosh, this is coming up again. I think she or he really must be thinking about it. So this really encourages some reality in the conversation. And this part of the conversation should just be about really kind of how it could hypothetically work in the future in super broad terms. I've really been thinking about it since our last talk, and I'd like to follow up with you. I was hoping that maybe in the next few weeks we could talk a little bit more specifically about it. I know I personally would benefit from some space apart, but I don't want to be able to move out until we absolutely have it all figured out. And I absolutely don't know how we're going to talk to the children about it, but I want to make sure that their mental health is protected. Stuff like that. And when you get information and a response from your spouse, it's probably going to be like, I didn't know you were still thinking about it. I thought that was just a phase. Did you get this from your best friend, Barbara? All of that stuff. Or it could be, I've been thinking about it too. And as sad as I am, I know that I can't force you to stay. So is there something I can do? Is there counseling that I could pursue? Is there any way to save this marriage? These types of questions can come up in that part of the conversation. And third, the last conversation I think you should have when you're breaking the news to your spouse into 3 conversations instead of a power-packed, pressure-packed, crazy, stressful 1 conversation is to have the last one be a little bit more of the nuts and bolts. I know we've been talking about this for months. I'm really ready to move forward. I've hired an attorney. I understand you're going to need to do that as well. I want us to do things in the way that's as peaceful as we possibly can, even though we're both hurting. And I'll be picking up the ball on this conversation and maybe some paperwork in the coming weeks. When you start from the general in the first conversation, a hypothetical in the second conversation, and a practical, logistical conversation in the third, then you've really given yourself so much space and time to get it right. And remember, there's really no right way to do it. This is just my suggestion. And I'm trying to do it in a way that allows your spouse to process the information which they need to do. And it's also kind and graceful to you and understanding to you, knowing that you're not going to get it perfect the first time. We all fumble. So if you can spread it out over 3 conversations, hopefully by the third one, you'll be really hitting your points as best you can. I hope this helps.